The most frightening zombie takeouts are the ones that exist in our minds.
What's up? Welcome to episode 320 of Zombie Takeout, the B-Movie and Cult Movie Podcast. I'm Uncle John.
And I'm Scotto.
And before we get to this week's movie, we've got some listeners submitted. This is from Bodo on Twitter, in reference to last week's episode. He said, about franchise bad guys, I'd like to see a Star Trek movie about the Romulans or the Klingons. We were discussing this before we recorded, and I've done some checking. There's nothing official out there that's from the perspective of either of those sides.
Yeah, there might have been an episode thrown
in. Probably an episode here or there, but no actual full stories. There could be fan films. I did some quick checking on fan films. I didn't find anything. They really like to keep it about the Federation in the Star Trek universe, even from the fan perspectives.
And mostly even human. I mean,
yeah.
You get so little about the Vulcan perspective or the Klingon perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Although they really did give Worf this arc that lasted through from Next Generation all the way to Deep Space Nine, that talked about the politics of the Klingon Empire.
Yeah. And now that the Klingons are, the Klingons have been a Federation, they wouldn't be the bad guys anymore. And I think that would be a really interesting thing to look at, is the inner workings of that whole society. If anybody out there is inclined to make a Star Trek fan film, think about the Klingons.
And maybe they should have made a Captain Worf show.
Yeah.
I mean, what the hell?
A Klingon captain, that would be really interesting.
Yeah. But alas, there will be no Star Trek.
Yeah. We were discussing this, actually stopped the conversation to talk about it on air. Because you got a line about Discovery in Over My Head last week. I was talking about the build-up to the Warcraft movie, and you slipped it, and I didn't even catch it until I was editing. Apparently Discovery's TBD at this point.
Yes, there is no date from what I understand. Nobody has a date on it. It was originally scheduled for January.
Which is why I signed up for CBS All Access. It
got pushed to, this month, May of 2017. And now it's, there's no date.
Yeah.
It's most likely, the earliest would probably be towards winter of this year, I'm guessing.
Oh my. And Brian Fuller's no longer on the show.
No.
Who was basically the draw.
I think he went on to do American Gods.
Okay. I have the first episode of that. I have yet to get around to watching it.
And there's, a lot of intrigue and rumor going around there, but of course I can't really say because I've just read articles on a train and the sources to quote them. I don't want to quote somebody.
So if, like me, you got CBS All Access just to see it, maybe don't hold on to it.
No.
And Bodo also said, I think Skyrim would make a good movie. I played a bit of Skyrim. Actually, I shouldn't say I played. I wandered around in Skyrim. I maybe did 2 quests. I kind of approached it like I do GTA. But I also did some reading up on the Elder Scrolls universe. I've played a few other games, ESO, Elder Scrolls Online, and Oblivion. The interesting thing about Elder Scrolls is there isn't really much detailed lore like there is in Warcraft. So it gives the writers a lot of freedom.
Well, I just saw a trailer for a game based on a movie out now. The Dark Tower.
I actually have that game on my phone.
Hell yeah! I was talking to Mrs. Scotto about that. It's about time they made a game about that, a movie about that game.
I loved that game.
Of course, why not? And then Stephen King writes his book a year after the game comes out.
Was it? Wow.
Yeah. I'm surprised they didn't sue because, you come out with the fantasy action board game and then some dude writes a book, fantasy action book. With the same name.
Yeah. I don't know if the game was all that well known.
I don't know. I mean, I knew a few people that had it. Of course, I did.
Hmm.
We just didn't have things.
I had it, played it all the time. Love that game. Like I said, I had the app. Um,
I take that back. We had our Atari 2600, and that was really all we needed.
Well, yeah.
And then the Commodore 64.
Now, as you were talking, I grabbed my phone. Yes, I'm searching something while we're recording.
What?
And I am seeing something about a Skyrim movie. And it's
Oh,
on
yeah?
IMDb. Skyrim Wait, that's 2013, it says. Skyrim Shattered Shield from 2013.
What system was this Skyrim on?
It's a PC game. It's part of the Elder Scrolls game series.
I don't remember that.
Open world, basically an RPG, but you could wander around a lot and not really do a lot of quests.
How have we not had a Wolfenstein movie?
That is a good question.
Or a Doom movie?
Anyway, I can't really search my phone while we're chatting, so. But look, keep an eye out. There is something about a Skyrim movie, so.
You can tell we're trying to put this review off.
Yeah, maybe a little bit.
We're trying to pause the inevitable of having to discuss the movie we're about to discuss.
Unfortunately. Well, okay, one more note. I see it in my notes about last week.
Okay.
Well, first off, it was great to listen to that episode while playing WoW.
Yeah.
That was a lot of fun. And it occurred to me while listening to it while playing, I wonder if Lothar was named after the SNL character. Do you remember Lothar of the Hill People?
No.
Late 80s Mike Myers, Phil Hartman sketch. Myers played this leader of these barbarians.
Called
Lothar.
Yeah. Okay.
But it was that late 80s Myers, Hartman, Lovitz era.
So it's only a couple years later that the game began.
Came out, yeah. So they very easily could have pulled Lothar from the SNL sketch. On the WoW wiki, it says it came from the German word Klothar, which means famous army. Given all of the pop culture references in WoW and, just the general sense of humor of the writers, I'm more inclined to think they ripped off, or I won't say ripped off, took it from SNL than an obscure German word.
Well, I love that they worked that, if you want to do a prequel to it, or you could just say Army of Darkness could be a prequel to it.
Yeah, it could be, actually.
Guns were brought in through Ash.
Wow. That's a hell of a theory.
And that's why they're called boomsticks.
Yeah. And unfortunately, I think that's about all we can put off the inevitable.
Yeah.
So on to this week's movie, which is from 1982, Mazes and Monsters. Of course, that brings us to the impromptu plot summary, sponsored by hats. Don't have time for character development, but still want to make your character memorable? Try a hat. They can seem to say so much while saying absolutely nothing at all.
And, he could have a hat for every occasion and never repeat it once.
Mm-hmm.
And also brought to you by the Twin Towers. Now we know the second worst thing that happened there.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, we have a group of college students, all from broken homes.
Yeah, I missed that.
Yeah. Like sad parents that just not getting along, or divorced parents, or a kid who had his brother run away, or just cue the violin music. And they while they're away at college, they get a little crazy. They experiment by playing a game that it consumes them, so much so that they do what is known as LARPing. And of course, LARPing leads to batshit insanity.
Mm-hmm. I can't decide if the movie is more anti-D&D or more anti-LARP.
I think it was more anti-broken home in the end.
Possibly, yeah.
Because that was the thread, really. I mean, everybody else is well adjusted.
Although Robbie's parents are still together, were still together by the end, or at least in the beginning, and he's the one who really went off the deep end.
Well, yeah, but they were, all fighting and everything on the car ride up. They established they were all in bad families.
Right.
So, yes, one of them goes off the deep end and leaves behind ridiculously obvious clues that take them a good 45 minutes to a half hour to
Yeah.
discern. He goes, of course, to New York City because that's where all D&D clerics would go.
Moves into this hotel with a friend where he has to dress in drag.
And
had to grow by that in.
He, oh yeah, the rent was dirt cheap. Yeah, he in an attempted mugging, he stabs his attacker, and of course it's New York in the early '80s, so no one gives a fuck.
That scene was almost funny enough to buy it a half a brain.
That scene was one of the funniest damn scenes in the whole movie. Of course, I agree there. They finally figure out his obvious clues that who knew the two towers were the World Trade Center.
Yeah.
Oh, I was thinking it was Star Trek, the motion picture.
Yeah, feature.
Like, Donnie says vacuum. Yelling at my screen. Anyway. So, yes, they figure it out. They, hilarity ensues and some badass song that they put together into this.
The last thing in my notes, or one of the last things, that fucking song with like 20 exclamation points. What you were saying about the song in Kelly's Heroes, that was me this time.
Right, this was even worse.
Because I really didn't mind the song in Kelly's Heroes, but this from the first time, it was no.
Right, yeah, honestly, the song in Kelly's Heroes cost it half to whole brain for me, honestly. That was pretty close to a 5 for me, but that fucking song almost took it from being recommended even. But this song was even worse.
Yeah, far worse.
I have on the notes, this is like the worst intro we've ever seen. Is this, are we about to watch a movie about murder or an episode of Mary Tyler Moore? I was seriously waiting to see Tom Hanks walk through the street and throw his hat up in the air.
Dramatic TV in the early 80s, actually I think the late 70s to early 80s, is a very special kind of bad.
I am shocked this was not actually done in the late 70s, that this really was done in the early 80s.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the whole time watching
82, I mean, very early 80s.
But I just assumed that they had done this, before Hanks was, anybody, and not actually released until, that came out. But the book was only written in 81.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this was filmed in 81, released in 82, right off the back of Bosom Buddies.
And of course, I mean, nobody knew Bosom Buddies was going to, actually hit. So, but the first thing was, who the fuck is Rhoda Jaffe?
I know the name. I think she wrote a lot of like sensationalistic books at the time.
She wrote one book before this that got made into a movie, and then mostly it's articles and magazines.
I heard the name a lot back in the day.
Really? Because it was the first time I'd honestly heard it, and I was kind of like, why is she getting like the Mary Shelley treatment? Because seriously, the credits, Rhoda Jaffe's, Mazes and Monsters.
You actually paid attention to the credits? Wow. I was just desperately trying not to hear the song.
Well, right, of course, but I mean, what else are you going to do? I mean, you're going to watch the credits as they roll when the song is gone. Like,
I had solitaire and a billiards game, and I had every casual game on my computer was up while I was watching this movie.
I was wishing I had solitaire. I mean, it's something I try to avoid, or else there goes a lot of time.
I will say this is the closest I've ever gotten to tapping out of a movie. I actually regretted mentioning it when we were planning this trilogy. Should mention, this is the beginning of our Moral Panic trilogy.
Yes, and this is a movie about moral panic.
Mm-hmm. And it starts with this news report, where the reporter says that Mazes and Monsters, that's the D&D clone in the movie, because apparently they didn't want to get sued.
And they would have, yeah.
Mm-hmm. They say it's a psychodrama that people use to sort out their issues. No. I mean, maybe some do, but generally it's escapism.
Well, yeah.
It's being someone else, literally.
Yeah.
And really, this is why we rarely review TV movies.
I mean, when I started playing, it wasn't even that. It was just, it was just another game to play.
Right, right.
But the appeal of it is, of course, that I mean, there's no limits.
Yeah.
It's the people who are playing it, and it combines so many things like theater and
Hmm.
mythology,
Yeah.
and but you can make whatever you want out of it.
It's collaborative storytelling.
Yeah.
It's the DM and the players collaborate on this story. Should mention, this is kind of reverse of last week. Last week I was the WoW addict. You were new to the universe. This time, you like seriously heavily played D&D for what, like 12 years?
Something like that. I think. Yeah. Yeah. It was about 12,
I
10,
never,
12 years.
I've never really played a serious game, but for the last year and a half, I've been watching a D&D stream on YouTube. Actually, now I watch two different games every week. And I've really been getting into it. I've done a lot of research on it. I've actually created a character. I desperately want to play, but I haven't had the opportunity beyond this one solo campaign that I'm doing.
My only regret is I never played with my niece and nephew. I
Mhm.
should have gotten back into it with them when they were younger,
Huh.
and that would have been really cool.
Mhm.
But oh well.
Mhm. So anyway, this movie is largely an indictment of D&D, and you're the expert this time.
You know what? I didn't take it as much of an indictment of the game itself. Although she's kind of sensationalizing it in the book and movie,
Mhm.
from what I understand, and takes like an incident of somebody. They might have gotten. I don't know if they got killed or if they
Oh,
got lost, but they
very
weren't.
nice. Very nice setup. The film was adapted from a novel of the same name by Verna Jaffe. Jaffe had based her 81 novel on an inaccurate newspaper story about the disappearance of James Dallas Egbert II from Michigan State University in 79. Media accounts differed substantially from Egbert's actual story. William Deere, the private investigator on the case, explained the actual events and the reasons behind the media myth in his 84 book, The Dungeon Master. From the Wikipedia article on the Dungeon Master, Egbert was a 16-year-old child prodigy who was battling intense academic pressure, drug addiction, and personal issues. He entered the school's utility tunnels with the intent of committing suicide, went into hiding after that attempt. After learning that Egbert had played D&D, William Deere, the author, who was unfamiliar with the game, suggested that Egbert may have entered the tunnels to LARP. The theory was taken as fact by the media, and it caused the controversy and all of the uproar and the moral panic.
We never did the LARPing aspect of it.
And I was wondering if this was kind of the origin of LARP, but it started in the late 70s, actually.
I
And it
heard
wasn't
about
really
people
known
who
until
LARPed.
the mid 80s. Uh-huh.
In the early '80s, I'd heard about people that would
Okay.
like LARP in some abandoned house or whatever,
Mhm.
or where maybe out in the woods, because I mean, it's South Jersey.
Right. There are lots
What
of
else are
them.
you gonna do?
Yeah.
But I mean, a lot of it was, for us, it was just hanging out
Yeah.
around a table. You know what? I think we even talked about this last summer.
Mhm.
Stranger Things, I
Yeah.
mean, is probably the most accurate portrayal
Mhm.
I've ever seen of it in media.
Right.
There's just no doubt about it. I mean, that's exactly what it is. The arguments that you have, the people who are sticklers for the rule book,
Mhm.
that knew like every passage of it. There was like, oh fuck, okay, yeah, okay, so we're gonna do that.
Yeah.
you know, the people who figured out the riddle too quickly, and the dungeon master that had hours planned
Mhm.
into this one riddle, and it got solved in like 15 minutes, and it's kind of like oh fuck. Can we take a break?
And actually, that's similar to the two games that I watch on YouTube. There's High Rollers on the Yogscast Live channel, and Critical Role ROLE on the Geek and Sunder channel. Just to give them both a bit of a plug. High Rollers is very rules oriented. You roll for everything.
Oh yeah.
Whereas Critical Role, all of the players and the DM are professional voice actors. So
Well,
they're a little lax on the rules and the rolling, but the RP, the role play, is fantastic.
I was always much more about the role play. Well, the story, I
Mhm.
mean, and when my riddles were solved too quickly, I was pretty good at coming up with something impromptu.
Uh-huh.
Go figure.
Yeah. Well, I
But
think that's,
yeah.
like you mentioned, the theater angle. particularly from a DM standpoint, you have to be good at improvisation.
Of course. Well, you have to act different
Yeah,
characters if
well,
you're a
you have to
DM.
play different characters, and you have to be ready for whatever they throw at you.
Yeah.
Like you
And
can
you have a
plan
lot of
all,
players that loved saying no.
because you can plan whatever you want, but somebody's going to throw something you're not expecting.
Right. There's no way. After you did it for a number of years, you learned there was no way you could prepare for everything.
Mm-hmm.
Someone was going to throw something at you. Even if you'd been playing with the same players for all of those years and you know those guys pretty well and what they're going to do, you never know what they're going to do.
Right, right.
Even if it wasn't in character.
Mm-hmm. Getting back to, unfortunately, the movie.
Yeah, the movie.
It kind of seemed like they were deliberately trying to make D&D players look bad, though. You mentioned the broken homes angle, but they were just kind of all pathetic.
Well, yeah, you could say that that's what drove them to the game. I don't know what they were trying to say with it.
I'm flashing back to your comments about what 50 Shades was saying about S&M.
But, I mean, the kid wearing the hats.
Oh, yeah, what the fuck was with the Nazi helmet?
What? Well, exactly. And why wouldn't the mother say anything about it?
Yeah.
In fact, nobody acknowledged why are you always wearing hats at any point in the film?
When he went to just like the regular pork pie hat, that's fine. That's just a hat. But the hard hat at the party and the Nazi helmet, it's And,
well, they did that the wrong direction. They should have started out with simple hats.
Yeah.
And worked their way to the
right.
Well, not the Nazi hat. It's a World War One hat, I believe.
Oh, it had the spike. I thought those were just Nazis that had the spikes.
I think that was more of a World War One
flying
ace sort of thing.
All right.
But it's still absurd.
Yeah.
In fact, it was still the most absurd hat that he wore the whole thing,
and
he started with it. I don't.
The very beginning.
That.
Yeah. And the blonde guy. I don't remember any of their names except Robbie was Tom Hanks' character. In the scene where he's talking to his mother over dinner, I half expected him to make a comment about Tashi Station. Like he was Luke in New Hope pathetic.
I was hoping to go. And then, I mean, what great business minds those parents were. There's no money in games.
Yeah. Well, in 82, I could understand that.
I don't know, man. Back then, Atari games.
Well, but it was just taking off.
Yeah, but they were still going for like $40 a game. And that's 1982 money.
Yeah, that's true.
$40. That was a lot back then.
And I kind of half expected a studio audience to just explode when Hank showed up.
I mean, $40 in 82 money has to be like double that now. Could you, spending $80 on a game?
Well, they're 60 typically, so.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not that much of a difference.
But of course, now things get downloaded.
Well, yeah, true. But I'm saying if you're like legit buying a console game, like in the store, it's like $60, which is one of the reasons I don't have a console.
Yeah, me neither. But the studio audience, they should have gotten the cast of Bosom Buddies for this.
Yeah. And okay, you've got the D&D experience.
Yeah.
Were the candles a little over the top for you?
Oh, definitely.
Okay, that wasn't it didn't seem normal. Okay.
That was definitely over the top. No one, who the fuck would light candles during a D&D session? Maybe we might have done it like once for a Halloween thing or something like that. And maybe that was around Halloween time. I don't know.
But they were kind of trying to make it seem like a religious thing.
A lot of people always did try to put something like that on it. That there was a religious aspect. When you could pretty much pick whatever deity you wanted.
Right.
There wasn't a set thing.
Well, depending on your race, I guess, but
yeah,
you could always change teams.
Well, yeah, that was the point of it. You didn't have to stay on the same team,
right? And of course, I have in my notes. Oh shit! The theme song is back because right after that first D&D game is when they start the romantic subplot.
They repeated it like 3 times in the first 20 minutes, I think.
No, I think it were only 3 times in the movie, similar to Kelly's Heroes. It was the very beginning. It was just after the first D&D game, and then at the end, right before the hideous epilogue.
I was really looking for someone to get knifed, but then I think it was just the people singing that song I wanted to see
Yeah,
get knifed.
yeah. And Hanks has always had kind of a Jimmy Stewart thing going,
Oh yeah.
but never more so than when he was talking about his brother in the movie. Like, he full on channeled Jimmy Stewart.
I thought it was a prequel to Forrest Gump, actually.
A little bit of that too, yeah.
And he's going to start talking about shrimp.
I think the best way I can describe this movie, it is aggressively mediocre.
Ooh, that is a good way of putting it. It's,
Like a lot of early 80s dramatic TV, this was a time like before HBO really took off and before VHS was widely adopted, so network TV was the only game in town and they knew it.
And yeah, looking at like the credentials of a lot of this, the people that put this together, like a lot of these people are TV soap opera people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
you know,
it feels it.
One dude did work on Quincy, and I thought this had a very Quincy feel to it. Like, it's that game, Sam, Dungeons and Dragons or Mazes and Monsters.
Uh-huh.
I mean, if they had Jack Klugman in here, if this was an episode of Quincy, I don't know. I think I'd give it a little more.
Yeah.
It would have been shorter too.
Well, and it would have had Jack Klugman.
Right. A very special 2-hour Quincy.
I just hope that MST3K can get this movie.
Oh my God, yeah.
Because I know they're not doing it this season, but maybe next season, if there is a next season. Because they would have so much fun.
I guess I should nerd pick this a little bit.
Okay, yeah.
Clerics don't use sharp weapons.
So a magic user wouldn't just carry a sword just in case?
Well, I guess like in back in that time they wouldn't have.
Okay.
Like in the early 80s.
Uh-huh.
Like I don't think that they got to the point of using different weapon proficiencies and stuff like that.
And it wouldn't be a stat stick.
Yeah.
You know what a stat stick is? It might be a WoW term. But he wouldn't just be carrying it for the buff. Okay. No, he wouldn't be carrying it at all. Okay.
Well, the rules in D&D, at least in advanced second edition, it was or first edition, I think. I can't remember which edition now we were at now. The cleric wouldn't use a sharp weapon.
Okay.
They took that from the Crusades, where where the order was given not to draw blood.
Ah, okay.
Gygax was a really smart motherfucker.
Clearly. He invented a game that's still very popular decades later.
And it was a great,
co-invented, to be clear.
It was a great, thing for the game, because, you couldn't make a character too powerful or it would just be ridiculous,
right.
I mean...
Oh, it's beautifully balanced.
Yeah.
Although, I've seen in one of those streams that I watch, a character die in a monumentally stupid way, and it was way funnier than it was in this movie. Because, like, if someone dies in a monumentally stupid way, most people just laugh at them.
Right.
This time they actually yelled at the guy.
Well, he was an idiot.
Well, yeah. But I mean...
Oh, yeah, I'll just jump down into the pit.
In the game I watched, this was on High Rollers, one of the players attacked a suit of armor in a room. A mysterious suit of armor. Needless to say, she was promptly killed. And there was a little yelling, but there...
when he jumped into the pit, now that you mention it.
And there was some yelling, but there was a lot of laughing at this person when they did it.
Yeah.
Which I'm assuming would be pretty typical.
And honestly, that brings me to another nerd pick. Ninth level is not that high.
It sounded a bit low. I mean, I think
intermediate at best.
Say again?
It's intermediate at best.
Okay. Like, what's a typical high level?
I mean, once you get into maybe the 20th,
okay,
then you're talking a high level character.
Okay.
But a ninth level character, you could probably do that in I don't know. You probably do that in a month or so, maybe. I don't know. Or I think a lot of times what we would do, the next character would just start kind of at the lowest level of the other characters in the party, just to not have too much of a difference. So
they can just get into it as quickly as possible.
Well, right. That's what I did.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Okay, here's your new character that you're making, and he's going to start out at this level. He's got this past, whatever.
Mm-hmm. And so, at this point they decide they want to take the tabletop game and bring it into the real world, also known as LARPing.
Yes.
And shortly before this, one of them decides to run away to these caverns. And apparently he was suicidal. He said something about killing himself.
Yes, he did.
The young guy with the hat guy. He ran away to these caverns, talked about killing himself, and suddenly he comes back to the game and he's talking about LARPing in these caverns that he just run away to and talked about killing himself.
Well, he gets inspiration by being in there that he's going to...
That apparently cures his depression. And the mental health issues in this movie are fascinating because, his suddenly disappear. Robbie, Tom Hanks' character, suddenly develops them.
Yeah.
Because they were never mentioned before. But, the night they start LARPing, which was really just a cheesy haunted house that he turned the cavern into, Robbie hallucinates this monster. He goes from...
Really, he hallucinates a guy in a monster suit.
Well, yes. Fair point. But he goes from no mention of any kind of mental health issues, just his parents kind of yelling at him to not play the game anymore, presumably because it just took too much time away from his studies.
And he lost his brother.
Yeah. But now he's full-on psychotic.
And it's kind of like, oh yeah, that's right. He mentioned something about his brother, going missing, and these things that, like, well, wait a minute, why you said that long ago?
Yeah. And when she said the most frightening monsters are the ones that exist in our minds. First off, the line was really on the nose.
Yeah.
And she pretty much looked straight into the camera when she said it.
Yeah. I had to wipe my screen because I thought there was some Velveeta running down it.
And also, that was a nice crowed-in Star Trek reference.
Oh,
when the guy said he was more like Mr. Spock.
Oh, yeah.
Because apparently, they had to crowbar Star Trek reference in because they're nerds.
Yeah, the most realistic aspect of this movie was, of course, everybody wanted to bang the one girl that was playing the game.
Right.
It was unavoidable.
Uh-huh. And was the voice in Robbie's head supposed to sound obviously like Tom Hanks?
I think so.
Okay. Well, because it turned out to be his brother, so it makes sense that it would sound the same.
I mean, of course, it wasn't really, his brother. It was just...
Well, it was his memory of his brother.
And what happened to him and everything is just all... I don't know. It was all just muddled, the movie. It was like, that's not important.
I gotta say, the Great Hall reveal was pretty clever. I didn't see that one coming. His brother was named Hall, and he said he had to go to the Great Hall. That was clever.
But the two towers, it was before he even went to New York.
Yeah.
It was kind of obvious what they were talking about.
Right. And the scene when he first disappears and the three other ones are talking about, the disappearance and trying to track him down. The dialogue, not so much the dialogue, but the performances with the three of them talking, reminded me a lot of the beginning of Thanksgiving, where they're all talking about, the trip. It was that level of acting, except in Thanksgiving, it was deliberately bad.
Yeah.
Like, this is the kind of movie that they make fun of in that movie.
Oh, yeah. As they should have.
Yeah. Also, his knife technique was amusing.
To say the least.
There's an attempted mugging, and he apparently brought what looked like a folding dagger.
Yeah.
Because it folded, but he was holding it like a hilted dagger. I don't know. I wish I could have gotten a better look at the blade. But he's just kind of holding it out in front of him. This geek who's never probably used a knife in his life. Unintended rhyme. And he actually manages to kill this thug. Or not kill him, but he knifes him.
And, I mean, this is the only casualty in the film.
Yeah, this mugger who gets stabbed.
We don't even know if he actually died or not.
No, I think he got up and walked away from it, so
of course.
Safe to assume he lived.
And a mugger getting knifed in New York is kind of, a humorous thing. Like, he got stabbed by the geek. It's almost, intentionally comedic.
Right.
In fact, it would have been great if the other mugger just started laughing at him.
Right, yeah, that would have saved it a bit.
He took you. What's wrong with you?
Now, I saw this movie when it aired on TV in 82.
No fucking way.
Yeah, that's
Really?
how I knew about it. I saw it when it aired.
Wow.
And the only thing I remembered from it, aside from the general idea, the basic plot, was, and I didn't remember it until he said it, there's blood on my knife. As soon as he said that line, my jaw just hit the ground because I could remember him saying it 35 years ago.
Is this the dagger I see before me?
He really did go a bit Macbeth.
Yeah. Unclean, unclean.
And then we have the third iteration of that fucking song.
And then the worst. They saved the worst for last, didn't they?
Oh, yeah.
I wish they all jumped off the fucking building.
They talk him off of the ledge, quite literally. And then there's this horrible sort of, I almost want to call it an epilogue, but they're all talking in the car about what they're going to do, about their futures.
Yeah.
Completely plugged in. I think they just wanted a bit of dialogue for the scene to show that they had to drive somewhere to see him.
Well, they were wrapping up. They were talking about what each of them were going to do.
Yeah.
I'm going to be this, and it's going to happen because I just said it in this car, and then we're wrapping this up.
It was practically physically painful to watch that scene.
Oof. Yeah. There were some moments that this was so bad you could laugh, but most of it was just absolutely painful. One of the moments that you laugh was they in the intro, and when they get up to the present. Did you notice the police squad thing?
Yeah.
The siren. That's all I can think of is da 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 da. But yeah, that scene in the car where they're talking, and it's just so. This is the epilogue.
Yeah.
I'm just banging my head against the desk.
Except it wasn't quite the epilogue, because then they get to the farm.
Well, yeah. Then there's, of course, what's going to happen to Pardue.
And, of course, he's stuck in that world. He's stuck in his head. He's still Pardue, the wizard.
Which made absolutely no fucking sense, because he kind of broke from the character on the top of the tower.
Right.
And you're saying he's going to get worse when he goes back to visit, stay with his parents?
He said, "Where am I? I don't remember." And he called them by their real names.
Yes.
He was broken out of it. He was broken, of course, but yeah, and then he reverts to that state permanently, the movie seems to suggest.
Right. It just didn't make any sense. And, back a little before that, though, the scene where he's freaking out in the tunnels, it didn't even make any sense as to what he was terrified of. There were just random sounds thrown in there, and him just going, freaking out.
Yeah.
It was like Gothic, only without the images. It just didn't make any sense.
Yeah. Well, they were just trying to show that his condition was degrading.
He was hiding under a giant W.
Mm-hmm. On to sequels and remakes.
Any sequel or remake of this should be killed on sight unless they're going to do a camp version of it.
Just no and no. You know
what? Okay, here we go. For a remake of this.
Okay.
Charles Busch.
Ooh. Is he still around?
I don't know. I hope so.
Okay. Well, yeah, he wasn't that old when we did the Psycho Beach Party, the movie.
Be alive.
Yeah, he's probably still around.
God, don't scare me like that.
Well, no, we were doing his plays like 20 years ago. I figured he was old then, but come to think of it, he looked like he was like in his 50s when he did Psycho Beach Party, so probably still around.
Apparently, there's an orthopedic guy in our area that with the same name.
Wow.
He's alive and well. I don't know who that is, though.
But yeah, Charles Busch version of this would be fantastic.
Apparently, some guy named Jeb Bush ran for president last year. The internet is full of such strange things.
Although, would they modernize it?
No, they shouldn't. They should not modernize. Oh, I'm spelling Bush the wrong
Yeah,
way. He's still
B-O-S-C-H is,
alive.
B-U-S-C-H is the playwright.
He's still alive. He's
Okay.
62.
Okay.
Thank
Um,
God. You had me worried there, man.
hmm. I hadn't heard anything. I was just wondering because I thought he was a lot
You
older
know,
than he
you're
is.
right. I hadn't heard anything.
Well, modernize it in the sense of not just bring it to modern times, but also like change the game to
Uh,
maybe Warcraft, because that's like the current thing that people are hooked on.
True.
And you know, that would get the attention more so than a D&D movie or a LARPing movie. And we've already had the LARP movie.
Yeah.
Knights of Badassdom.
Right. We kind of had that that internet series about the Warcraft people. What was it? Was it the Guild?
Oh yeah, the Guild. Yeah. It was actually called The Game, but it was very closely based on WoW, yeah.
Yeah.
Although if it was Charles Bush, he really would go back to set it in the early 80s, make it D&D, and yeah.
Well, I think he took some Psycho Beach Party stuff, from this.
Possibly,
Where
yeah.
it's just so over the top, and you're just like, really?
Mm-hmm. On to brains?
On to brains.
No brains. It was painful. I almost tapped out. Like I said, I regretted mentioning it when we were looking to fill out this trilogy. It might be the second movie I vowed to never watch again.
Well, yeah, you got no argument from me. I couldn't sit through this again. I don't know how I made it through that first round.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, right. No brains. When you're right, you're right. This movie just doesn't deserve any.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, as funny as that scene of him stabbing I don't know, was it the guy from Land of the Lost? That suit that they borrowed from that? I mean, it was seriously that bad and that funny, but it's not worth going through any of this for that.
No. So, what have you learned?
Life is like a box of chocolates. You should give your Oscar to Tarantino, Tom Hanks.
And I learned that not even Tom Hanks can save an early 80s TV movie.
Need more Scolari. Need more anything.
Yeah. Now I'm picturing
that song.
Now I'm picturing a remake with Tom Hanks, Scolari, and maybe a couple of the women from Bosom Buddies.
I could go back
reenacting it now.
I could go back and watch that Kelly's Heroes movie and think, well, this song wasn't that bad.
Yeah. Song in Kelly's Heroes was downright brilliant compared to this monstrosity.
Yes.
As much as I had issues with Kelly's Heroes, it was fucking brilliant compared to this monstrosity.
Oh, that's what this movie was missing. Okay, this movie was missing everything, but if they had some Rickles in it,
oh god,
then we would have been watching. What's wrong with these kids?
Need to dig up some archival footage and put him in the Bush version. Anyway, until next time, and we'll be reviewing Reefer Madness.
Oh my god.
I've been dreading Reefer Madness, but I think it will be an improvement. Also, next week is 8 years of Zombie Takeout.
Wow.
I checked it.
8-year anniversary.
When the Reefer Madness episode is released will be the day before, unless I decide to hold it back until Saturday, will be the day before the 8-year anniversary of our first episode. So I actually might hold it back a day and put it out on the anniversary. And I can't think of a better movie to hit the anniversary with than Reefer Madness.
Can you believe we average 40 movies a year? I mean, that's actually quite impressive if you think about it.
I check it, and I always kind of hope for 45 year, because that's our theoretical maximum, because we schedule 7 weeks off. But yeah, we average about 40.
Well, when you think of how many weeks off other people take.
True.
12 is not bad.
Right. Good point. Until then, go to zombietakeout.com, check out the album art, the episode description, of course, the episode itself, which you're already listening to. Links to find us on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, and YouTube. Please leave us a rating and review on iTunes. We'd really appreciate it. Also, if you enjoyed the show, give us a little word of mouth. Spread the word. Of course, we appreciate all of the listeners we have, but more would be better. You'll also find the movie list, every movie we've reviewed so far, and every movie we're going to review, currently up through Zombievers, until we think of another movie to add to the end of the currently scheduled movies.
We've got a long list of movies.
Yeah, I think it's August or September, barring any unscheduled weeks off. You also find the recommendations list. It's an early 80s TV movie. I never had any delusions that it would make the rec list, of course.
You know what? I was thinking this was going to be one of those so bad it was good movies kind of thing.
Yeah, you've been looking forward to this.
Right. That's fully what I was expecting. Like something just, I mean, to Misty from one end to the other, which honestly, yeah, they do need to get their hands on this.
What I never mention in this outro is the avoid list, which we also have. Every movie that's gotten less than a brain. That's what this one hit. This hit the avoid list.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
In the show notes, when I have the links to IMDb and Wikipedia, whenever we review a movie that's on YouTube, I'll put a link to it there. I'm not going to do that this time because I want to spare people.
I mean, I was about to give it half a brain just for the dude in the suit, but that song 3 times.
Yeah, that ruined it.
It felt like more than 3 times, honestly. It felt like more than that. So
yeah,
nothing.
You can also email us zombieticket@gmail.com or leave us voicemail at 414-368-CTL1 or for the alphanumerically challenged.
Say versus wisdom.
You can watch this movie.
Oh.
414-368-9861. Of course, always remember that you'll always be calling from the middle of Milwaukee. And until next time, always remember, never forget, wherever you go in life, there you are.
I can't be with you anymore. I mean, I would really like to, but I just can't be with you any longer.
The most frightening zombie takeouts are the ones that exist in our minds.
Is this, well, hold up, is this 320? Is this 320 or 319?
This is, what the hell was this? This is 320.
This is 320. I thought it was 19. Okay.
That's 320 somewhere.
Yeah. What's up? Welcome to episode 320